Scott Cohn at the Criminal Courts Building in Manhattan, where moments ago the former IMF head Dominique Strauss-Kahn stepped into a Manhattan courtroom and possibly maybe taking his first steps toward freedom. We have been confirmed now from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office that the defense will make an application for reduced bail and the prosecution will agree to that. But the prosecution is going to have to explain itself before Judge Michael Obis, and it could be that the charges against Dominique Strauss-Kahn, so brought with such fanfare on May 14th after a hotel maid accused him of sexual assault, may be about to go away. This after the maid's story began to sprout a whole bunch of holes, and after a lot of concerns about whether she has any credibility because of alleged dealings with drug dealers, money laundering, and perhaps lying on an asylum application to the U.S., lying about what else, a rape case. So the he said, she said story becomes just a he said, and he says he did nothing wrong. Guys?
All right, Scott, stay with us. Rejoining us now to give us some insight on what's happening inside the hearing is Attorney Richard Roth, Defense Attorney Dwayne Cates. Thanks to both of you for staying with us. Dwayne, what do you think happens next in the courtroom? What goes on?
Well, what happens is the defense has made an application to lower the bond. The prosecution's agreed to it, but just because everybody's agreed doesn't mean it's automatically going to happen. The judge is going to have to listen to the reasons for the application. The judge is going to ultimately decide whether or not to change the release conditions or not. But I'll tell you what, we're going mal learn a lot about what's going to happen in this case by what the new release conditions are. Because if
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Scott Cohn has some breaking news. Scott?
Just that the release conditions, the prosecution is going to move to dismiss the case now, we were told. Let me, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Let me read this again. The prosecution is going to discuss the case. Discuss the case. I got some wrong words here in the confusion here. The prosecution will discuss the case with the defense before the next court date, which is July 18th. That was supposed to be the date for the trial. So they'll have to decide where to go from here, essentially, where this is all in so many ways fallen apart. Will it continue to be a felony case? Will it be a misdemeanor?
Okay.
They're going to reduce the bail. That suggests that there's issues there. But the prosecution, again, will be discussing the case with the defense, deciding where we go from here. But it's a whole lot different than this case looked yesterday.
Okay, and Richard, we're hearing right now that the prosecution will not dismiss the case. That is the word that we're getting right here. Does that surprise you? What's your reaction to that, or is that standard at this point?
It doesn't surprise me at all. What's happened here is the judge wants to know. The judge wants to know either today or down the road what exactly is going on with this case. I think the judge needs answers. So the judge either said, prosecutor, tell me now, is she testifying or not? Or he said, you two have to sit down because you have to figure out if this woman is not going to testify at all, then what are we doing? What are you wasting my time and the city's time and the entire prosecutorial office's time on this case for? So I think for what has to happen is a prosecutor has to get his, if you will, ducks in a row to find out exactly what is going to happen. Are they going to put her on the stand? That's really the big question here.
Tom, we're hearing that DSK will not get his passport back. So that's one issue. He's going to stick around for a while. This won't be resolved, I guess, till July 18th. Talk to me about that. What kind of questions will the judge be asking today? What do you think he wants to know?
And we're hearing right now he's been released on his own recognizance. That's the report we're getting from inside the courtroom. I just wanted to interject that before you went on and answered the question. Go ahead.
Who's the question to?
Question to me. The answer is right now the judge wants, and there's really one question. The question is, what is going to happen with his victim? Is she going to testify or not? If she's testifying and she's not going to assert the Fifth Amendment privilege, then we could have a trial here. She could still go through a rigorous cross-examination, but the prosecutors can prove their case. If she's not testifying, then it makes it very, very difficult for the prosecutors to put on any case at all. So that's really the question right now that's got to be answered to the judge by the prosecutor.
All right, so Dwayne, the hearing is over. That's what's being reported right now. The hearing is over.
I'm hearing so many voices at the same time here.
And I want to ask you what happened now. DSK, he's sort of a free man, basically. His passport is still in their custody, but he's sort of a free man. He gets to have much greater, he can go about his business now. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, if he's released on his own if he's released on his own recognizance, then that's what'll happen. Now, we can tell a lot about what the case is like by what they did. Now, if they would have given him his passport back and let him travel to France, I would say the case is over. But it looks like they still want to do some more investigation and into the past and into the allegations and to see what happens.
What is left? I don't understand. Richard, go to you. You guys are making a convincing case that it ought to be dropped, that the charges should be dropped. Now, maybe the process can't work that fast today, but what is left to be done if the charges are not dropped? What's left for the prosecution?
Well, the victim may still want to testify. She may still want to take the stand and have to go through the rigorous cross-examination, but tell the story. She may not take the Fifth Amendment. Remember, this probably is a lucky break for the defense, which is, some will argue it's a conspiracy theory, but it's probably lucky break to the extent that the victim is not who people thought she was. So the question they have to find out, they have an answer to, is she going to still testify and testify as to what happened in that hotel room? If she does, this case continues, notwithstanding the cross-examination.
And I just want to point out on the right side of the screen here, we are watching the front of the courthouse, and ostensibly we have heard that DSK has left the courtroom, so we're going to see him come out through here any moment. So we're watching for that. Dwayne, what do you think are the odds of that at this point, though? What are the odds of what Richard said? Do you think that she'll actually take the stand? It seems like that's almost an impossibility at this point.
Well, she could. And something that nobody's talked about so far is that the prosecution could grant her immunity for these other crimes that are floating around out there. And so that could be a decision that the prosecution's still going to have to make and hasn't made yet.
What would the defense say to that if that happened?
Well, the defense would beat the prosecution over the head with it. They would make the victim look like the only reason she's testifying is to get immunity to the other crime.
And he certainly looks pleased. He is smiling as he leaves the courtroom with his legal team after winning quite a victory here, but not a complete victory. Released on his own recognizance, the next court hearing, July 18th, the defense and prosecution told to discuss the case. The judge said, I'm expecting you'll show up at your next court appearance. I'm sure that you will. This is a completely different case than it was 24 hours ago after the main accuser, really the only other witness in this case, beyond Dominique Strauss-Kahn himself, has proven apparently to be not credible.
And Scott, we're seeing at the bottom of the screen here that his cash bond has been returned. His passport has not been returned. As we see him leaving the courtroom with a big smile on his face, is the assumption that he's going back to Tribeca?
Well, that would be the assumption that he is. I guess we'll have to see. And, of course, we have a crew there. We'll see if that's where he goes. But then where he goes from there, we don't know. As long as he's back here on July 18th, he's free to go anywhere within the United States that he wants to.
Yes, he might be going out to Nello or something for a celebratory lunch. We have no idea.
I just want to go back to Richard Roth for a second. Pursue this line of inquiry. I don't know anything. I'm not a lawyer. How can this woman actually testify? She's going to have to answer questions about her drug-dealing boyfriend who's in jail, these mysterious phone calls, these cash deposits. You really believe that stuff could be waived? Even if she were granted immunity, wouldn't that be where the defense lawyers spend all their time, to just slam her down in the eyes of a jury?
Absolutely. Dwayne is absolutely right. There could be immunity may be granted, but then what you have is a woman on the stand who's going to be tortured by Ben Brafman in connection with all of her lies, alleged lies. And the question is, at the end of the day, it's a veracity question. Who's telling the truth and who's not? And remember, the standard is reasonable doubt. So presumably, with all of the things that have come out now, and there may be more, there could be enough for there to be reasonable doubt. So at a minimum, we have a trial with a very weak victim. At a maximum, we have a victim who's not going to testify. So this is a very good day for Dominique Strauss-Kahn.
And Dwayne, it goes without saying, at the end of the day, we will never know what happened.
Well, we won't. There were only two people in the room that day, and those are the only two people that really know what happened. There's no physical evidence of any kind of force, and so we'll never know.
And Richard, she could get busted for laundering drug money. I mean, isn't that an issue? She'd get busted for, I don't know about these international political conspiracies, but it just sounds to me like it's drug money laundering, and that's why these multiple accounts and bank deposits were set up.
Yeah, Larry, it's more than that. It's possible laundering of drug money. It's possibly lying on her asylum application. It's possibly lying to investigators when they did an investigation as to this incident. So there are tremendous implications with regard to this victim.